Good afternoon, y'all. It's Brian Forbes, once again coming at you with the Black Factor. Today, we're going to discuss the recent uncovering of what some are calling a modern-day lynching. Ahmaud Arbery was killed apparently back in February by a father-son duo who, for whatever reason, decided to take it upon themselves to do what people refer to as a citizen's arrest. So we're going to get into that, and I got a couple of questions I have, and I'm sure you have as well, and we're going to discuss those things. So stand by. All right. Well, before I get started today, I want to send a shout out to my man Jai. He's feeling a little bit under the weather. Just want to let my guy know, love you, brother. Get well soon, and so we can get back on this party set when the time comes. All right. So, my man Ahmaud Arbery, who apparently was murdered, and as Iris here says, a citizen's assassination rather than a citizen's arrest. I do not disagree. I don't disagree one bit. So here we had yet another unarmed black man shot down in the street, and under normal circumstances, I would say like a dog. However, in our current social climate, it appears that shooting a dog or harming a dog will probably get you more time than it will if you shoot or harm a black person. Apparently, this shooter, Travis McMichael is his name, of Brunswick, Georgia, is not a member of law enforcement. However, he took it upon himself to become the judge, the jury, and executioner of Ahmaud Arbery. So far, no one's been arrested. No one's been charged in this crime. And it posed me to question why that is. Now, apparently the young man was jogging down the street, minding his own business, when he was approached, accosted, murdered eventually by an individual who took it upon himself to do the job of law enforcement. Because he apparently fit the description. You know, that's the term used by those not of law enforcement, well, and law enforcement as well, along with stop resisting. How many times have we heard that? Well, I have a few very interesting points that I want to make to you today, because I want you to really give some thought to exactly what is taking place here. So let's examine the realities of what did take place. Now, let's keep in mind that there are, Charlotte says this is war. Yeah, well, I don't disagree. I don't like what happened, but I do realize that it's unfortunate that we pick and choose our times to direct our fight. And sometimes we need to be fighting long before the tragedies happen, and then that would help to actually prevent many of these tragedies. Now, for those of you in my viewing audience who have yet to see this video, we're going to take a quick look at it as we continue on in the show. so that you can have an idea of exactly what did take place. And we heard the first shot. There's a second shot. And a third shot. And from there, he stumbles and falls. Now, it also had been brought to my attention that after which he
in Georgia, a district
had been rolled over and searched to see if he possessed a firearm as well. So in other words, these two said that this individual fit the description. They then rolled him over after they killed him to see if he was armed. Now, one of the questions that stands out to me the most is, how did these individuals know that he fit any description? What description was given? Now, there's a reason why I'm asking that question, and I'm going to bring that point back around here in just a few minutes. But let's look at what sort of attitude it takes in order for you to even have the arrogance to believe that what they said was going to be a citizen's arrest. Now, we all know that in certain societies or certain circles of society that people dehumanize others in order to destroy them. And this is why we continue to suffer from these unarmed killings, because of the dehumanization of our people in a way that allows others to think that automatically, because of their skin color, that they are wrong, or that they have done something that they have no business or should not be doing, or have broken some law. If you've ever watched the show, it was a movie out many years ago called The Watermelon Man, where he would, it was a white man who didn't particularly care for black people, and one day he woke up black. And so he went running down the street, as he did every single day as a white man, to catch the bus. But because he was black, the people around him and in his neighborhood said, "Stop that black man, he's running, he must have done something." So this would be a similar scenario. Well, Travis McMichael is the shooter's name. His father's name is Gregory. And they were said to have been attempting to make a citizen's arrest on an individual who matched the supposed description of a burglar in the area. It turns out that Gregory McMichael, who was also, that was the guy in the back of the truck, the father of Travis, is also a retired Brunswick Circuit District Attorney investigator. So in other words, he is involved with law enforcement, however, is retired, yet still never had the power of arrest, if you will. Apparently they began to tussle for the gun, and that's when the gun went off, or he was just blatantly shot. Well, apparently the young man, Ahmaud Arbery, was hit in the torso, in the midsection, which he, of course, died as a result of his injuries. Now, nobody's really surprised about the arrogance, or the arrogance that is required for someone to assume that they know enough about an individual or a certain set of circumstances to jump out and kill another individual because they thought that they had done something. Now, I want you to remember, I'm saying what I'm saying because I'm really jumping ahead, but not really. And I'm going to bring this to you in a way that is somewhat compelling. Hang on. Now, I asked before, how did these two know about the alleged burglaries? Because you would think that by them having that much arrogance and what they believe they have authority and dominion over people of color, you would think that they had actually seen a crime take place. Now, I wonder how much information they really had and where they got it from in order that they thought that it was necessary to effect a citizen's arrest on someone that they said fit a description for burglaries in the area? Charlotte, absolutely. White privilege. Not to mention the fact that here we are again with the unarmed black male scenario. Now, let's keep in mind when we talk about white privilege, for example, Charlotte Phillips, let's remember that last week we had a group of armed white individuals storm a federal courthouse, I believe it was, in Michigan, which is highly against the law. Or was it the Capitol? It doesn't matter. You cannot carry a firearm, despite your Second Amendment rights, into federal property, period. Even some law enforcement's not allowed to do that, and especially in certain states. Now let's just imagine, had those been armed black men who ran up into that place armed the way they were, and how the outcome would have gone. We know that our particular liar in chief promotes this sort of behavior. And because we already know, and this is something that we need to think about, where that last event in Michigan took place, we need to think about this really long and hard. Was that a precursor to what we're going to see when, not if, when the fella in the White House loses this upcoming election? And he is going to lose. And I have some very pointed opinions about why and how. And the last thing that I'm worried about is him actually retaking office. So with that said, is this a dry run? Did we witness a dry run in Michigan of what's going to happen if this guy should lose his seat in the White House? That's just food for thought. Now, you would think that in a situation like what we witnessed on that video, or the death of Ahmaud Arbery, that there would be an automatic arrest and investigation, or something that would allow us to, or at least have it investigated properly. Well, let's remember again, this gentleman is a member, or was a member of law enforcement to some degree. He was a member of let's just put it this way. He had friends in the law enforcement community. So the question is this George Zimmerman 2.0? Why do I ask that question? Now, here's the fun part. This is what I'm about to get to the meat of it all. And I'm about to piss some of y'all off. And I'm going to tell you why they hadn't been arrested. Be it right, wrong, or indifferent, here's the truth. Georgia has, like Texas, where I currently reside, a little thing called the Castle Doctrine. The Castle Doctrine allows for protection of property with deadly force. Now, here's the point. When you use the Castle Doctrine, let me see. Dana, you said the thought of police are real. They don't feel relevant to act if they perceive or believe that they take action under the color of law, citizens arrest. Yes, absolutely, Dana. And this is where I'm about to go with this. Karen, it is not a cover-up. Not a cover-up at all. Let me explain to you why. And I'm about to get to this point. The Castle Doctrine states that you have the right to protect personal property, period, dwelling, domain, with deadly force inside not only your home, but from your vehicle. And let's also remember that you do not have the responsibility to retreat while under attack or any other form of confrontation, if you will. Now, the thing here is, and the question becomes, and you know, this, believe it or not, this is actually an issue. Now, I'm going to read this to you. Section 16, chapter 3, paragraph 20. in paragraph 4, this is the Castle Doctrine, and it's called justification, this particular paragraph 4. When the person's conduct is reasonable and is performed in the course of making a lawful arrest. That is the justification for using the Castle Doctrine and coupling it with what would be considered a lawful arrest. Now, check this out. Here's where it gets even more interesting. This is part of the Georgia Code, 17-4-60. Says that a private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. Now, that brings the question, how much do we know about what they actually knew? See, now they can start lying right here, which they've done anyway, about what they knew and where they got the information. Now, I'm going to read that again. A private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. If the offense is a felony and he's escaping or attempting to escape, a private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. I'm going to put that real simple for you. Citizens may arrest someone if he sees that person commits a crime, or if the crime is a felony and the offender is trying to get away. A citizen can arrest that person if they reasonably believe that the person committed the offense. So in other words, if I reasonably suspect you of committing a felony, even if the felony didn't occur in my presence, of the individual making the arrest, as long as the felony was actually committed, it had to actually be a felony committed now. The individual making the arrest knew at the time and had reasonable suspicion about the identity of the perpetrator. That will justify the arrest. Now, what this appears to me to be is more of a legal loophole that allows a person to be very vague about their situation. Charlotte, you says can arrest, not kill. I agree with you 100%, but here's the problem. See, and any bad lawyer can put this together, especially for two white males over a young black male. If I apply the right to commit a citizen's arrest with an attempt to make a citizen's arrest, while in that attempt, I can show that the individual attacked me. Now, let's keep in mind, if you watch the video, the young man runs around the truck. It doesn't appear, now I don't know, the truck is an obstruction. I'm just giving you food for thought here. It does not appear that he attacked that man with the gun. It appears that he was probably trying to survive, and he may have grabbed the gun in an attempt to do so. Either way, at that point, according to Georgia law, that young man did not have, it was not necessary legally for him to retreat. And at that point, it became a defensive posture that he took and shot the young man. Now, I'm not telling y'all that I agree with this, and I'm not saying that this is right. What I'm saying is that that is a plausible defense for the McMichaels. Yes, it sucks, but it's the reality that we live in. This is the very same almost scenario that we just watched a few years ago with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. This is the almost identical situation. Here we are following somebody. You playing God, you playing police, thinking you're going to track down a criminal. You're going to do the world a favor. You're going to do a service to your community, and you want to question in your godlike posture someone who you suspect is a criminal. In your arrogance, and in the process, end up having to defend yourself from approaching someone that you should not have approached in the first place. So now it becomes, you're no longer the villain, you become the victim in order to save your own skin. Because let's be honest, what would have happened if, I'm just devil's advocate, what would have happened if that young man had actually wrestled the gun out of the hand of that other guy? Would he have pulled the trigger on him? Would the father have then shot him? The father was holding a handgun in the back of the truck. Would he be dead regardless? Once again, you know, I'm putting this stuff out here because let's also keep in mind that how important voting really is. See, if we voted, some of these laws and these things that allow these situations to come to pass, and I'm talking about on a local level, forget the national level, would we be where we are today? Will we continue to allow these sorts of laws to affect our lives the way that they do? And also, you need to remember this. The arrest of private citizens, or should I say the arrest by private citizens, are subject to fewer constitutional requirements than an arrest by law enforcement. Although rules still do apply, failure to abide by these rules can result in civil and criminal liability for the arresting individual. Now, I question, and I don't know the fact to this yet, if the parents or his loved ones have filed any form of civil suit against that family for wrongful death. I think they should, and they probably will. But it brings me to another point in that, why is it that every time these situations come to pass, it takes months for them to surface, and then for protest to be necessary in order for an arrest to be made and a proper prosecution come into play? You know, it's a shame. Magzon, we all know the dad would have shot him if that was the case. Their whole intentions were to kill him because he was a black man, and the father knew he could get away with it. You're probably right. Now, again, this is the world that we live in, unfortunately, and it is a terrible thing when we have, well, I can't say when we come to a place, because it's always been this way, where black skin is criminalized. It's time for those individuals to be arrested and properly prosecuted. We know that no matter what, they're going to have to live with the results of their actions. Now, everybody knows about the book, The Black Factor. And in The Black Factor, I deal with things of this nature. Let me see. Dana Brock, the Castle Doctrine is also known as Stand Your Ground as of 2020. Absolutely correct. The following states have Stand Your Ground on the books: Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and West Virginia. And he is absolutely correct. Now, that has just about gone national. And again, that is a sort of legal loophole in order for people to make an excuse for the murder of and the destruction and dehumanization of others, those who are melanated, if you will. Now, in The Black Factor, in the image factor chapter, I wrote a passage here. It says, countless police reports have been generated where a black person has been accused of a crime they never committed. Often a crime is never committed, and they are still looked at as being suspicious by whites. Whites have committed crimes and erroneously reported that a black person did it in an attempt to have blacks pay the price, no matter their innocence or guilt. Many innocent people have been arrested, sent to jail, convicted, or even killed for crimes they were never even aware of, simply because of perception and lack of trust in anything black and simply having black skin. If black people were as violent as the media has portrayed them to be, they would have begun exterminating the white race long ago. That's a fact. That is in the black factor. It boggles my mind that we always manage to fit the description, or that is the excuse. It doesn't matter what description we fit. They were not in any place to be questioning anyone. They were not in any place to be stopping anyone. I hope and pray that the proper thing is done here and that the prosecution is done in a way that sets an example, if you will. Fortunately, in recent years, we have been receiving levels of justice that we have not received in our history in this country. I know it's baby steps, and you can't stick a knife in 12 inches, pull it out 6, and call that progress. However, it is a fact that we are beginning to see the tables turn. It is a fact that the generations coming forward are beginning to move in ways that allow us all to be better with one another. They are not as quick and as egregious as their predecessors and ancestors. So I'm happy to say that, we are, at least it's being looked at. I find it amazing as to where we are today in these situations. I find it incredible and crazy that that there's even a possibility of a defense for these people to be able to do what they did and get away with it. It scares me that we can walk down our street, run down our block at any given time and be accosted by individuals just because they feel like it. And here we are in the year 2020. That is a great tragedy to me. However, the one good thing is that this video apparently contradicts the story that these individuals have given as their defense to begin with in the initial investigation back when I guess it happened. So they are now being called into question, and they are now going to put this case in front of a grand jury, which I personally believe they need to be just arrested in the first place. Another unfortunate point is that apparently the Georgia Bureau of Investigations, the GBI, has picked up the case. But the sad part, they're only investigating how the video got leaked and not the murder itself. Now that's what I've been told. An interesting turn of events. So hopefully we will figure out that voting does matter. We will vote on our micro levels as well as our macro levels and begin to make changes in the way we do things within our own local governments that allow us to move more freely and better in the future. It's unfortunate that it's taken us well over 100, 140, 150 years to get to a point where we are trying to make some sort of change and some sort of waves. Election time is coming, y'all. I know there are many people who don't believe in voting and they think that voting is a waste of time. Well, if you'll go stand in line for a Popeye's chicken sandwich, please go stand in line just to cast your vote. Even if you don't think that it means anything to you, while I appreciate that, it means something to the rest of us. So do us a favor and help us out. And come and cast your vote for the rest of us. We need help. Iris says, don't just keep looking at it. Write it down in the book of life. Record it in our spiritual minds. Give it to the Creator because He alone will sort them out. Meditate. Absolutely. So I'm going to finish this segment with vote. I'm going to send out repeated condolences to my own family, who we've lost a very valuable and important family member on last week to the COVID-19. Let me encourage you all to protect yourselves. I have run across many who still believe that this doesn't exist, and they think that just because our government has said you can go and roam free into the world, that everything is over with and you should not worry about it. That's unfortunate, and that applies to Darwin's law of natural selection. Charlotte, absolutely vote and go to the gun range. I agree 100% because I believe in it. I believe in exercising my rights the same as everybody else. People, take care of yourselves. Put on your masks. Even if this is the same way I feel about what I said about voting. Even if you don't believe the vote counts, do it anyway for the rest of us who do. Help us out. We need help. You want to bond with your people. You want to make things better for your people. Even if you don't believe that voting counts, do that for us. Help us out. We need help. People who don't believe that the COVID-19 is real, they don't think that it exists, they don't think that it means anything, do us all a favor and wear your mask. We'll wear ours, and let's take care of each other. Let's look out for one another because we need to. I read an unfortunate post on Facebook the other day where a young man had a problem with the idea that if he had to wear a mask in a store that he wasn't going to go. Well, that's fine. And called it a slave mentality if you wore a mask. Now, how he put those two together, I have no idea. And I will say this, anyone who compares what we're going through right now to slavery, we're inconvenienced at best. But anybody who compares what we're going through to slavery has never been a slave. Anyone who compares being stuck in your house for the safety of your and your family's lives to being in jail has never been to jail. If you think that's prison, try going to real prison. And I guarantee you'll change your tune. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Brian Forbes. This has been The Black Factor. And I hope that if nothing else, I've given you some food for thought, enlightened you a little bit, and gave you something to chew on. Everybody have yourselves a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Peace out, y'all. We gonna get on down.